What's up, guys? Welcome back to Newswave. So very quickly, I've noticed that over the last several months, more and more people have been signing up to become members of the channel. There's like a join button down there you can click and you get different perks for it, which at this point has been emojis and that sort of thing, which is cool, but it's gotten to the position now where so many people have joined that I do want to add some extra benefits and perks to the membership tier, which at this point will include an ad-free early version of every episode of Newswave going forward in like a members only section. So that should be live as of today, actually. But if you're not a member, it'll just still be standard 8 a.m. Eastern time here with Newswave. But shout out to all the viewers, then of course the members who have signed up. I really appreciate it. But today we do have a bunch of stuff to go over, which does include Nintendo's president Shintaro Furukawa responding to different questions with investors. That does include some of the challenges when it comes to the next generation device that they'll be offering. We also have a major deal that has now happened between Disney and Epic Games that has Fortnite at the center of the whole thing. And we have some unfortunate news to go over, which includes a fan favorite studio that seems to be shutting down their office. Guys, if you enjoy these videos, make sure you hit that like button, helps out a ton. And if new here to the Spawnwave channel, make sure you subscribe down below. And we're gonna start today with Helldivers 2, which is out today. And in fact, I will be checking this one out, and it seems like it's become very, very popular on Steam leading up to release. So much so that you can see here, top sellers on Steam, Helldivers 2 is at the top? Like, okay, so this is the top 100 selling games right now by revenue. I think that's very important to note, as games, of course, will sell a ton like Power World, but then will start to flatten out a bit as basically everyone who wants it has it, or just sales will slow somewhat. And for Helldivers 2, leading into launch, of course, there's gonna be a lot of people buying it and just kind of preloading and getting ready. However, this is interesting because it is Sony launching a game day and date on PlayStation 5 and PC, and it seems like so far, the results are good. Makes me wonder if Sony might continue the process with some other titles, certainly with live service games, but will they eventually see these kind of results over and over again and then decide to launch a big first-party single-player game? I guess we'll see as we go along here, especially with the concurrent player counts and stuff that people will surely be tracking on Steam, but certainly a good start here with Helldivers 2. Also, we do have an update when it comes to New Game Plus for Spider-Man 2, as well as just some other general updates for the game. We can see this posted up. This is over on Insomniac Games X account, saying our next update is coming March 7th, so a month out. Our title update for Marvel Spider-Man 2 PS5 arrives next month and adds highly requested features like New Game Plus, new suits, and more. So they do mention watching their social media account for a complete list of features closer to release, but I will admit, going back to it in March, so months after it's released, and I've gone through and platinumed it, it won't necessarily be on like my high priority list with some of the other games that'll be releasing around that time, especially in March we have Dragon's Dogma 2, Rise of the Ronin, and others. But still, I will keep an eye at least on some of the features, some of the suits that they add, and what exactly New Game Plus will do for people who have just gone through and like 100% the game. But I'll keep you guys up to date when they do release that list of all the things that are being added. Oh, and we do have our games list that will be in attendance at EVO 2024. That'll be taking place July 19th to the 21st in Las Vegas, which we can see this slide. We have Street Fighter 6, Tekken 8, Grand Blue Fantasy vs. Rising, Under Night in Birth, Mortal Kombat 1, Guilty Gear Strive, King of Fighters 15, and then Street Fighter 3 Third Strike. Always fun to have that one there, but clearly the big two headlining ones, I feel like, is Street Fighter 6 and Tekken 8. I know Mortal Kombat 1, obviously it's Mortal Kombat, it's very popular, but Tekken 8, off to a fast start this year, and that might be the one. If I was going to pick one of these games to watch, I'm not really a big like EVO person, but if I was going to pick one, it would probably be Tekken 8. I mean, the game looks awesome in motion when it's controlled by people who are actually good at it, which I probably wouldn't be one to watch with that, but it still looks like an awesome title to kind of spectate. So maybe I'll catch some of the clips here and there, but if you're heading into EVO, like actually going to Las Vegas, seems like they have a pretty good lineup of fighting games this year. And guys, with some of the quick news out of the way, let's get into the bigger stuff. Let's start right away with Nintendo and their next generation device that they kind of did like a very mild hint towards when they discussed the idea of the Switch being the main focus for hardware going into 2024, as we went over yesterday. But along with the financial reports they put out, they also had Q&A with investors, and they released all of this in Japanese, and we actually had VGC that went through and did a translation of some of the answers, and one in particular stood out to everyone because it sort of went over Nintendo's mindset and some of the challenges they'd be facing coming off of an incredibly successful generation and device with the Switch. Now, we can see this is posted up over on VGC. And again, these are translations that they had done by a contributor over there. This is President Furukawa responding to risks that they would be encountering, or at least that they believe they could encounter when they go into the next generation devices people are dubbing the Switch 2. It says, "We approach our business every day with a profound sense of urgency. The generational transition of platforms in the dedicated gaming console business is never easy. We have experienced significant challenges following successful platforms multiple times, so we never consider our current situation to be totally secure." This is very important, by the way, as you figure a company that is incredibly successful one generation may go into the next thinking that they're basically untouchable, and we've seen this happen a couple of times now. You could think of Sony from the PS2 to the PS3, even Microsoft from the 360 to the Xbox One, and obviously Nintendo from the Wii to the Wii U. That might have just been Nintendo kind of Nintendoing a bit too much with the idea, but I think the concept was halfway there and they were able to fully realize it with the Switch. Even like the DS to the 3DS, I like the 3DS a lot. It's a good system. Sold half of what the DS did. So Nintendo has gone through the ringer a couple of times coming off of successful systems. So you feel like they wouldn't necessarily get too comfortable coming off of the Switch, knowing what they're about to go up against here. President Furukawa goes on to say, "Furthermore, as you pointed out, our business is always exposed to great competition from a broader entertainment perspective. Not only video games, but also various forms of leisure are competitors in this industry. In this environment, there's an increasing need more than ever before to continue offering unique propositions to become a brand that customers choose." This is also a very important aspect because you look at the Switch and it has some like awesome exclusive titles, right? You could look at it as really the best library of games ever in Nintendo's history, especially from a first-party perspective. I kind of look at it and say it's not even close. We even have a lot of older games that have made their way to the platform through remasters, remakes, or even just the Nintendo Switch Online app, actually going back and just getting old games and bringing it into the service and the ecosystem. But in this case, something that's really worked to sell people, the mainstream specifically, on the Switch is its core concept with that hybrid nature. And the reason analysts are saying it may not sell as well, in fact, they're betting on it not selling as well if it's just an iterative version of the Switch, because it will be harder to get the mainstream to upgrade to the new system. That mainstream not being myself or you watching this who are just like, hey, I want a more powerful Switch. I'll be there day one if that is the case. But that big aha moment that's like, oh, I can't find this anywhere else. And that was something that hybrid concept really brought to the table. And that's essentially what they're saying here with unique propositions. Could also be service-based with what we see with NSO and their account setup that they have, and clearly something they're working on with Nintendo systems. But what is that aha moment for the next device from Nintendo? Because they've already done the hybrid setup, and that's where you bring in the people who are paid a lot, who should be very smart at Nintendo, who figure something very creative out. I wouldn't have gone into the Switch thinking hybrid model. That's obviously something they really introduced at a mainstream level, and it's paid off. But what do they do with their next system that trumps even that? I don't know. It's hard to say. I'm sure they can build off of the current Switch, but clearly they're aware that they have to have something else to really put people over the edge to show up on the system, even outside of just really good exclusive games. Because I'll get you and me in, but what else can it do? I'm sure is what the current mainstream audience is thinking. So I guess we'll see, because I actually don't think we're too far off from at least getting an idea as to what Nintendo's plan is. I think we're going to find out before the end of this fiscal year leading into GDC. Next up, let's talk about some unfortunate news that's come to light after all of the layoffs that were reported, actually last week with Microsoft, nearly 2,000 people being laid off, and it seemed to range mostly on the Activision Blizzard side. But we didn't have like specifics necessarily. We were finding out really where these layoffs were falling on Activision Blizzard just by social media posts for the most part. But now it appears things have gone off the rails a bit for fans of Toys for Bob. As we can see, this is posted up. This was actually cited from San Francisco Chronicle, which does have a paywall, but we can see this part of the article that was clipped by a Canadian guy. It says the layoffs in Nevada at 4 Hamilton Landing match an address for gaming studio and Skylanders creator Toys for Bob, which was acquired by Activision in 2005. The facility will also be closing, according to a state filing. So we know that layoffs had hit Toys for Bob. We didn't really know what the scale was necessarily. Was it 10 or 20%, something like that? With this, it's a bit concerning that Toys for Bob studio may just be shut down, or they may be essentially dissolved into Activision Blizzard as a whole, and they just join up in different parts to different studios within Activision and Blizzard. Now, there's also the possibility, as people are theorizing, that maybe they're shutting down that specific office at that address and moving to maybe a cheaper location, or it's possible they could go fully remote. That would be the hope at this point, because if Toys for Bob gets shut down, that would be an absolute shame based on what they've been able to do with things like Spyro, Crash Bandicoot, and even the hopes that we would see a new Spyro game from Toys for Bob. And now also, think about this. You have Activision Blizzard in the fold. Toys for Bob is there. Rare's over there with Banjo. It's like, that seems like a match that would be perfect if they really wanted to pursue a 3D platformer in the Banjo franchise. It's been dormant for a while, but if you dissolve the studio and even separate and move a lot of the developers around to other parts to maybe do support, you're not going to get those kind of games. So we still have to really keep an eye on this. It doesn't necessarily mean that Toys for Bob is absolutely shut down, because again, they could be moving or doing other things internally to set them up to more or less work within obviously cost-cutting measures that they're taking now. So we'll see if there's any announcement from Toys for Bob themselves or Microsoft or Activision Blizzard, and I'm crossing my fingers that they're still around, but nowadays, based on what we're seeing with layoffs across the industry, it's hard to say what's going to happen.
Okay, so I didn't want to leave this one just sort of stewing, waiting for the update, as we did get one last night, and I wanted to come in here and edit this together so you at least had this right in front of us, which is that it seems the physical office was shut down and some employees were let go, but the studio itself, that being Toys for Bob, is still active with a majority of staff now remote workers. Okay, so I don't know if there is any kind of relocation happening here with a physical office, but at least at this time, while we don't know specifics around necessarily how many employees or staff are left at Toys for Bob, they are at least still together. It's still a studio, so good news there. We'll see if we get any more details around this as we go along and we get comments from Microsoft or Activision Blizzard.
Next up, let's talk about a major deal that was announced yesterday, and it's between Disney and Epic Games, with Fortnite at the complete center of this thing. And to me, it sounds like Fortnite is about to go next level, which is weird to say, considering it's a game that was able to amass over 44 million players in a single day by just bringing back the classic map that kind of started everything for them with Battle Royale. But let's take a look. This posted up over on gamesindustry.biz, where they say the Walt Disney Company has invested $1.5 billion to acquire an equity stake in Epic Games and has announced plans for a major collaboration with Fortnite. Disney and Epic described the project as an open, persistent social universe. It will be a games experience, but also offer the ability for fans to watch, shop, and engage with content, characters, and stories from across Disney's portfolio, including Pixar, Star Wars, Marvel, and Avatar brands. Now, Tim Sweeney is still the controlling shareholder of Epic, and he'll continue to maintain control of the board following the close of this transaction. But this, to me, is a major, major announcement. We have several quotes. We have here from Bob Iger, who says, "This marks Disney's biggest entry ever into the world of games and offers significant opportunities for growth and expansion. We can't wait for fans to experience the Disney stories and worlds they love in groundbreaking new ways." Disney Experiences chairman Josh D'Amaro says this will enable us to bring together our incredible collection of stories and experiences from across the company for a broad audience in ways we have only dreamed of before. Epic Games' industry-leading technology and Fortnite's open ecosystem will help us reach consumers where they are so they can engage with Disney in the ways that are most relevant to them. And then Tim Sweeney at Epic said Disney was one of the first companies to believe in the potential of bringing their worlds together with ours in Fortnite, and they use Unreal Engine across their portfolio. Now we're collaborating on something entirely new to build a persistent, open, and interoperable ecosystem that will bring together the Disney and Fortnite communities. And I think it's pretty obvious what their vision is for Fortnite at this point, with Epic Games and now Disney climbing aboard. They're building their metaverse. They've kind of already been working on that for a while, and I think it became very apparent to people when we saw the Lego collaboration. There's like the racing collaboration, and really the Harmonix one where it's kind of like Rock Band in Fortnite. Now think about the potential for going into Fortnite, and you can go watch different Disney movies or shows that they have. You can go shopping in Fortnite for Disney merchandise. You can have these collaborations with these different intellectual properties. They might build an entire game within Fortnite that's not even like a battle royale, but it's a Star Wars game. And you go there by using Fortnite as the platform. That is clearly their direction here and what they are trying to do. So I wouldn't be shocked if after this really massive deal happening here, that you see other big publishers of different multimedia products and stuff climb aboard with Fortnite as well, because it's hard to believe that Fortnite could get even bigger, but then you bring in Disney and their obviously well-known intellectual properties and add them in, and it just seems like Fortnite is going to go like absolutely crazy at this point. So I'm curious what they come up with, because rather than go into Fortnite and you're just playing a battle royale, you're doing all kinds of stuff currently, whether it's playing Guitar Hero basically with a guitar, racing around, building Legos, and who knows, maybe visiting things like, as they say with Avatar, Marvel, all the different superheroes there, Star Wars. Just seems like the list goes on and on and on. So we'll see what they come up with. But again, massive deal happening here with Epic Games and Disney. And in our last bit of news, let's talk about that state of play that happened the other day for Final Fantasy VII Rebirth. And this was, I think, an awesome showing for the title. And it seems like for the most part, that's how a lot of people felt with this game, as it was starting to even crash the PlayStation Store, because they did indeed announce and then release the demo. And in fact, there's another part of the demo we have to look forward to. So as of now, if you go on the store and you download the demo, it's like 40-something gigabytes. It's a pretty large a trial of the game, we'll say, but it does allow you to play as Cloud and Sephiroth during a certain incident that takes place, which is mostly just a flashback that happens in the full game, which means that you will have this save data transfer over to the game when it comes out, and you'll have already played this flashback, so it'll technically skip over it, but it's a really good set piece for the game that I think I'll say set things in motion very nicely and really show off how much they're taking things, whether it's the battle system or just the overall presentation through the cinematics, to the next level. And as I mentioned, there will be another part of the demo releasing, and this is actually shown over on the PlayStation Store description, where they say the Junon area episode will become playable after an update on February 21st, 2024, and can be accessed after completing the Nibelheim episode. So I did that, and then it did unlock, but it's like, oh yeah, come back later. And that should be the open world aspect, whereas the one right now with Sephiroth and Cloud is mostly kind of a straight line. They have areas that are a bit wider where you're fighting different monsters to get a feel for the battle system. However, the Junon area should just be open, like an open world section, and you'll have the rest of your party members there with Red 13. You'll have Barrett, of course, Aerith, and so on. And that, of course, is going to be really cool to see how it looks like on the big screen natively, because I will admit the performance mode, when I switched over to it, looked kind of blurry. I mean, it ran better. That's one where I'm starting to like, oh, okay, I'm kind of noticing the fuzziness that we get from these games when we go up to 60 frames. And in this case, the quality mode might be the way to go, because it does look visually impressive pretty much across the board. But absolutely encourage people to give this one a shot and see what you think. Of course, though, you might want to go back and play Final Fantasy VII Remake if you haven't, one, to get the save data, because you will get some extra perks and benefits like a full summon, but two, you kind of want to know what's going on since you're going into the second part of this. And before we go to the comment of the day, we're going to take a look at the poll that I posted up yesterday, where I asked, are you picking up Helldivers 2? 6% say yes, getting it on PS5, 4% on PC, 19% say maybe later when there's a sale, then 71% say no, I'm not interested. And this is something I have noticed pretty much across the internet with many people I've talked to. They're just not interested in picking it up necessarily. I did find someone I can play it with. My copy's actually coming in today. I ordered it on Amazon, so I have the physical copy for this one. I found Mystic Ryan. We're going to play online and try it out and probably be able to give some of my thoughts on the podcast this weekend, Saturday night. But like people in the Spawncast I'm going to, like, Helldivers, are we going to play it? No, I'm not buying that. It's like $40, but I don't know, maybe it wasn't necessarily catching people with some of the showings that Sony had for it, because up until this recent state of play, not the Final Fantasy one, the one before that, they hadn't necessarily been throwing it all over the place so people can see it. And in fact, some people said in the poll, what's that? So we'll see how it turns out. I mean, reviews weren't even live yesterday. They should be live at some point today. But again, I'll try it out and I'll give my thoughts this weekend. And we'll finish up with the comment of the day as you're seeing here. This is from Fernbatch, says, warning to those coming in, Nintendo did not discuss hardware plans. Nothing new was said. You may continue with your day. So I did see this hours after the video went up, and I went back and looked at the title just to see, like, Nintendo comments on hardware plans in 2024. And I was like, you know what? Maybe that didn't necessarily line up. The thing with titles, and it's very interesting from a YouTube backend perspective, because it's not really discussed much, but like when you put together the titles, for me, that's like the least fun part. I am fine with the thumbnails, great. Making the videos, putting together, writing them, great. But then you get to the title, I'm like, how? Because I try to fit 2 topics in there, and then the end of it is Newswave, so I end up with like 90 characters to try to make this work, and it's just, it's not a fun creative process for me. But in this case, if anything, I default to the most literal like definition of it, where I'm like, oh yeah, they commented on the hardware going into 2024, the Switch going into 2024 is the main focus. Started as 130 characters, and I had to whittle it down to 90, and that's kind of what I came up with there. But reading it back, I kind of see what's exactly mentioned here. So again, I'll play around with some of the titles more and more as I go along, but out of all the videos that come out for Newswave, yeah, sometimes they don't necessarily line up with what I'm reading back as literal, and then what, of course, is read through the title when you click on it. See, I tell you guys, I look at all the comments, I really do. And in this case, I wanted to pick one out that was more critical of the show and the title. There was kind of a shame, because there was one that was talking about a Mega Man Legends collection or something, which I think would be kind of cool. What if they put like a Mega Man Legends 3 demo in that? There was one like, I think they might have finished that. Oh, well, maybe we'll get to that someday. And ladies and gentlemen, that's going to do it here for Newswave. If you enjoyed this video, guys, hit that like button. If not, hit the dislike. Leave comments down below, but everything we talked about here today was Nintendo talking next generation challenges for their Switch 2, which, yes, they actually did talk about it here. But let me know what you think their plan maybe is for that big aha feature like the Switch and its hybrid nature. And then also, what about the situation with Toys for Bob? Do you think the office closures being reported actually means the studio is gone or being dissolved? And then Disney, Epic Games, Fortnite, what do you think the future holds for what's already a massive metaverse title? Thanks guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.